기사부대, hop on the beat!
Welcome back to JoJo Anime and Manga Differences. After a 9-month wait since the first batch's release in December of 2021, we've finally gotten a second 12-episode batch of Stone Ocean. The first batch I think made some interesting choices and additions, and I think that is even more true here. I'm a big fan of some of the changes they've made in the adaptation this time around, so let's get right into it. This batch begins with the 13th episode, picking up from chapter 51 of the manga. The first notable difference, however, is that the episode begins with the scene of Jolyne's imprisonment in the Ultra Punishment Ward. This scene was originally shown later in chapter 58, but the anime places it here to serve as the opening for this batch of episodes. In the manga version of this scene, the guards dragging Jolyne are just faceless characters. Now in the anime, they've been updated to be Viviana Westwood and Sunny Lakir, who appear a bit later in that arc. They also no longer list out all of Jolyne's restrictions in the punishment ward. After this is a new scene of Pucci reminiscing about one of his meetings with Dio, which was shown in an earlier episode. After this, we get a scene that shows a demonstration of Hermes' powers, as well as Sportsmax's introduction in the chapel. This originally happened at the beginning of chapter 52, but it is shown slightly earlier here. When FF is talking about doing opposites, she no longer mentions using sauce instead of salt on her food. The two girls that cut in front of FF are now made into characters that have appeared before, the two bullies that Jolyne encountered shortly before her meeting with Jotaro. Jolyne is no longer holding her tray when she takes the open spot in line. The way that Jolyne learns about Hermes' past has been changed. In the manga, FF tells Jolyne that Hermes got sent to prison on purpose, and her entire backstory involving Gloria, which was all part of Etro's memory before she took over her body. In the anime, FF doesn't know any of this, and only tells Jolyne that she saw Hermes following a man. There's a new flashback that shows us the scene that was added to episode 12, when FF whispers in Hermes' ear. Now we hear what FF told her, and see that she was following Sportsmax at that time. Now there's a new scene of Jolyne bribing Gwess for information, and learning about Gloria's death from a newspaper in the prison library. The manga had a scene of Jolyne and FF following Hermes from a distance. This has been replaced with a scene of them confronting her directly about what she's doing. The full flashback of Hermes' past is shown here, while before it was done when FF told Jolyne about it. The flashback has a new scene showing a younger Hermes with her sister and father mourning her mother's death. This is the first time we've ever seen Hermes as a child, as well as Hermes and Gloria's father, who was only mentioned in the manga. Some of the information in the flashback that was originally only narration is now shown to us through dialogue. When Sportsmax spots Hermes running in the manga, it's just past a fence, while in the anime she's up on a bridge. New scenes are added showing Sportsmax's trial and Gloria in the morgue. After Hermes first attacks Sportsmax, a scene is shown of Gloria's body being discovered. The anime removes Hermes' narration about why Sportsmax was given a stand and that it must have something to do with Whitesnake. FF no longer mentions that she's thirsty alongside her other injuries. There's a new scene of Hermes bringing FF a bucket of water and FF healing Hermes' wounds. The originally nameless woman that Sportsmax talks to is actually given the name Sharon in the credits. When Sportsmax takes out the drugs, she also no longer mentions not wanting to use it. A new flashback is added during the fight showing us how Gloria was killed. After Sportsmax is defeated, a new scene is added of Gloria's ghost hugging Hermes. The scene of Jolyne calling FF for help is now shown from FF's perspective. After the credits, a new scene is added showing Jolyne being arrested by the guards, which leads her back to the scene in the punishment ward. Since it was already shown earlier, the scene of Jolyne being brought to the punishment ward is skipped over. Some of the narration describing the punishment ward is also skipped. In the previous batch's first release, Emporio's design was updated to remove the logo of the Cubs, and instead it was given a blank blue logo. Later in the TV rebroadcast, this was updated with an original Green Dolphin Street logo. This is the logo that's used here in the second batch. In the flashback of Anasui killing his girlfriend, you can see him in more detail, while in the manga you could only see his shoes. FF no longer questions Anasui's gender when she sees him. The flashback of Dio and Pucci discussing Survivor is shown earlier, before Westwood starts fighting. Here's something I thought was a new difference, but actually turns out to be an older one. In the anime, you can see that the miniature boat Dio is building looks almost identical to the boat from the ending of Phantom Blood. I assumed this was a new Part 6 anime change, but if you look in the Part 6 manga, the boat is actually the same. So it seems like this was actually a choice made back in the 2012 anime, to make the boat there look similar to how it did from Part 6. A new image of the 6 hikers is shown where they also have a dog with them. The original user of Survivor's childhood is no longer described. When Westwood frees all the prisoners, you can now see Kenzo and D&G in the group. The scene of Anasui and FF sneaking into the prison is moved to after the meteors are introduced. Some of Pucci's narration from the middle of the fight is removed. The manga goes into more detail about how exactly Planet Wave's meteors enter the atmosphere. The scene of the prisoners outside reacting to the meteors is also removed. During the scene when FF falls into the electric chair, the manga begins the countdown at 15 seconds, while in the anime it begins at 1 minute and 30 seconds. At the end of the fight, an extra shot is added showing the prisoner with the bone. After the manga version of the Jotaro scene, a flashback is shown to when Jolene was arrested for stealing a car when she was 14. The anime skips this since it had partially been shown before. It was placed after Jotaro and Jolene met in the prison, but it only showed the portion of her under arrest, not the events leading up to it. Some of FF's dialogue with Anasui before she trips Jolene is removed. In the manga, the beginning of the Yo-Yo Ma fight happens in media res, as in it shows the scene of the 3 leaving on the boat until going backwards to the moment when Yo-Yo Ma ate the green baby. While in the anime, everything happens in chronological order. When Yo-Yo Ma offers the comic book to Jolene, the manga doesn't show what the book is. In the anime, the cover is visible and you can see that it's Pink Dark Boy, the in-universe manga created by the Part 4 character Rohan. Yo-Yo Ma no longer shows Jolene the matchstick puzzle. Jolene no longer begins to sprout again in this scene after walking into the sun. Once they get on the boat, Yo-Yo Ma doesn't have as much information on it as he does in the manga. He also no longer offers to cook the frog for them. When they're hiding from the patrolling boats, Jolene no longer unravels their rope to avoid getting caught. The narration going in-depth on mosquitoes was removed. When Yo-Yo Ma offers to make Jolene a skirt, he no longer says her measurements. When he takes out all the stuff he no longer has a sticker for the band REM. Pucci no longer says which recording of Handel's Messiah is being played. The prime numbers that Pucci is counting when he confronts FF are different. From what I can tell, instead of starting over which numbers he's counting like in the manga, they continue his counting between scenes, making the number much higher. So each scene of him counting after this also has different numbers. During FF's memories of the past, Anasui is added into the shot of the group. The anime also removes the context of the scene being shown. In the manga, it explains that it was Jolene making fun of how FF's toes are shaped. The scene of the green baby leaving a handprint on Anasui, as well as the shot of the dead fish, are removed. There's a new shot of Anasui throwing the bottle over to the green baby to see if he was interested in it. While he did say that he did this off-screen in the manga, the anime adds the scene of it actually happening. Jolene and Anasui no longer hear the guard dogs approaching at the beginning of this scene. Jolene no longer hurts her fingers when running away from the stand. The flashback of Pucci and Dio's conversation happens earlier than it does in the manga. Pucci's outfit has been edited and is no longer a crop top. This may have been done for consistency, since other panels from the same scene show his outfit differently. Dio no longer mentions watching a Michael Jackson concert on TV. The fight between Pucci and Foo Fighters is rearranged, with part of it being shown in between scenes of the Green Baby's chase. When FF is running away from Whitesnake, a scene is removed where Whitesnake uses a disc to see from a bird's perspective and is tricked by FF into attacking a reflection. In the anime, Anasui no longer mentions people getting married in the prison. In the current fan translation of the manga, this line is actually mistranslated to say that he was married in prison before. What he's actually saying is more like just telling Jolene that someone else had gotten married in the prison. Pucci no longer has an internal monologue about using the cross to extend his reach. The narration going over Dio's diary is now shown before Pucci leaves the prison. As he leaves, he no longer speaks to the guard and leaves a hole in the teacup as he did in the manga. The awakened Pucci design has also been altered to match how it appeared later in the manga. Emporio now mentions what the other characters are doing before the jailhouse lock arc. Hermes and Anasui are in the medical wing, and Weather Report is holed up in his room for an unknown reason, although this is likely alluding to something that happens later in the manga. Emporio no longer mentions the Hell's Gate as the barrier beyond the visiting rooms. A new scene is added of Hermes in the medical wing, and a flashback of Emporio telling her about FF's death. Jolene no longer tries to go to the bathroom after forgetting why she went back to her cell. When Jolene is watching the movie, she no longer mentions Johnny Depp by name. The anime also shows a scene from the movie, which is now a fictional movie rather than the real one the manga was referencing, From Hell. Jolene no longer spoils the Sixth Sense while the other prisoners are watching it. The anime adds a new scene of Jolene seeing a guard disappear when he exits her memory. Jolene no longer gets distracted by a book about chocolate cake when she enters the ghost room. Emporio no longer says that he wants to see life outside after he's shot. Jolene and Emporio now have extra dialogue before she chases after Mew Mew. The anime skips over the scene of Pucci at the grocery store and moves it to the end of the episode. When Jolene has Mew Mew hostage, the guards originally got distracted by there being simply too many things going on to remember. In the anime, Jolene drops 3 bullets on the ground to reset their memories completely. Instead of just walking around holding her, Jolene now wraps Mew Mew in string and drags her around the prison. Now when Jolene and Emporio meet Hermes in the infirmary, she still has Mew Mew with her. Jolene's conversation with Hermes at the end is also extended. At the end of the episode, we're shown the scene of Pucci at the grocery store, which happens slightly earlier in the manga. The initial scene of the woman stealing has been removed, and it starts with her meeting Pucci outside. Originally, her baby reaching for Pucci's hat caused her to drop the groceries. Now she no longer has a baby with her and just trips to drop them. The employee from the store is also no longer present in this scene. While the eggs still grow into chickens at the end of the scene, since the woman no longer has the baby with her, the scene of the baby aging is not present. And that's all of the differences present in the second batch of the Stone Ocean anime. There weren't as many changes this time around, but I think the ones that were made were almost all for the better. While in the first batch I wasn't a fan of some of Jolene's backstory being removed, this batch doesn't have as many bad omissions. Although I do still feel like certain scenes should have been adapted, like Jolene stealing the car and the full encounter at the grocery store. However, some things like Hermes' expanded backstory and a larger presence for her overall were good additions. In general, I think I may have preferred the second batch to the first, although the 9-month wait between the 2 batches was definitely an issue. It's no secret that I'm not a fan of the batch release format, and I would have preferred a weekly release even if it meant we'd have to wait a little bit longer before the premiere. But one good side effect of this release is that the differences videos are split up to give my thoughts from throughout the airing. I'm definitely excited for the third batch since the final third of part 6 has some of its best moments. There's also no doubt going to be a long list of interesting changes when it comes to some of those arcs. Just like the first batch, the second batch will be receiving a TV rebroadcast in October. The first trailer for the second batch was shown at the end of that broadcast, so if that happens again, we can expect to see the final batch's trailer on December 23rd. Hopefully the final batch will release sometime early in 2023. That's it for now, but keep up with the channel since I have a few more videos coming this month. If you want to be updated on new videos and chapters, join the Hum and Beat Discord using the link in the description. To receive rewards like Discord perks and some uncut videos, you can support the channel on Patreon. And finally, for future videos, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching. This is the part of the video when I thank my $5 and up patrons. Thank you to Alex Ramirez, Doorbell, Ashton Joseph Miller, Crayon, Rigo Vids, Zukato, Sentai, Pumpkin Doge, Marrow, Almighty Quarth, Oof, Cowrie, Halil, Gatlin Grove, Vess, and Lime Jinjo.